Welcome to Weekly Reddit, and in today's episode of r/Entitled People, my ex Mill insults me over my job and my body. Update: the truth comes out. Update: ex Mill wants to take my baby to Greece for a year. Happy ending. My ex Mill insults me over my job and my body. This is a long rant, so sorry in advance for how long this is. I'm pissed and just need to vent. My ex-husband, Bill, and I chose to end our marriage amicably. There was no cheating or anything like that. There was just too much stress due to some issues that happened. Feel free to read my previous posts on my profile for that debacle, and we both decided that it was for the best. I seem to be a magnet for insane people. My mother, ex-friend, her mother, insults my life is fucked up sometimes. Both of us were feeling the strain, and our mental health was taking hits all the time. We argued a lot, even over the pettiest of reasons. Our eldest son, Brandon, was being affected by it. We had stopped going to couples therapy and weren't even sleeping together as much as we used to. I would often sleep in bed and he would sleep on the couch in his office. Bill knew what he was getting into, but he decided after our youngest was born that he couldn't deal with it like he thought. After talking about it and trying to come up with solutions, we chose to end our marriage. It hurt and broke our eldest son's heart, but we agreed to stay friends, and so far it has been working out fine. He's still in our lives, has a room for our kids at his place, and takes our eldest to school every morning, and visits a couple of days out of the week. He and I have lunch twice a week to talk about the kids and keep each other updated. We're a divorce court judge's wet dream. It was the best decision we made, at least I thought so. I moved me and the boys into a 2-bedroom apartment, and I am working full-time as a bartender at a gentleman's club. I love my job. I've only been there a few weeks, and I am making good money, close to $1,000 a week just in wages and tips. So with alimony and child support, we're sitting pretty. I am trying to lose weight so I can become a dancer at the club. I'm doing the keto diet and going to the gym regularly. I'm shedding the pounds I want to lose, and I am already down a dress size. I have always struggled with my weight. I was never overweight but not exactly skinny. I am white, but I have what some call a ghetto booty. The women in my family always had big hips and big boobs and big thighs. I am also using a waist trainer to help with my figure and posture. I do my hair and makeup and go to work looking and feeling like a movie star. I have long dark hair and green eyes. I started getting spray tans when we moved to this city, and I have fallen in love with it. I feel good about myself for the first time in years, and I am an ever-evolving work in progress. I am what you would consider to be a mud, as I have a lot of different cultures in my bloodline, mostly German. I have to brag here, but even Bill turns his head whenever I walk into the room and tells me he regrets not having me in bed whenever he wants. I admit, I get a little satisfaction from that. I used to dress super frumpy and didn't bother much beyond a shower and brushing my teeth. I also want to add that I never attended college. Bill is tall with a deep olive complexion with jet black hair he keeps slicked back, a full beard he keeps short, and large golden brown eyes. He dresses well. He has an ass that makes me drool. He has always been in good shape, and since our move here, he has gone to the gym to stay fit. He is full-blooded Greek, as his parents immigrated to the US right after they got married. His father found success in real estate, while his mother maintained the family home. They lived in wealthy comfort in a massive house in Connecticut until they moved to my old state. Their home in my old state is just as massive and considered a mansion. It's on an old plantation that they turned into a beautiful estate. Bill went to college and got his bachelor's, and quickly got an internship at his current career, which he makes 6 figures at. Maybe unbiased, but he is the perfect man, at least on the surface. Needless to say, I was nowhere in my ex-husband's league, but his family welcomed me with open arms. They were the family I always dreamed of having, the opposite of my family in every way. I loved them so much and called my in-laws mom and dad. We always got along and talked almost daily. Mill often sent me recipes of Greek dishes for me to learn how to cook for Bill because he loved it. We often went to a little Greek bistro as a family, and I make it a point to have our eldest try stuff from Bill's country. You can imagine my surprise when my Mill called me to chastise me about the divorce. She said that if I had been a better wife and lover, Bill would have stayed with me. She said that divorcing him twice was just too great a sin to forgive, and I needed to find God and pray for forgiveness for my wicked ways. I reminded her that Bill cheated on me to cause the first divorce, and broke things off with me for the second one. I don't know where this was coming from, but she needs to have this talk with her son. She blew up at me saying my new job is tempting sin, and that it was the devil's playground, and my body would be soiled for her son, and he wouldn't want to be with a woman like me. I reminded her that Bill and I divorced, and she said I chased him away. She said every picture she received from us since I began bettering myself weren't worth going into her albums, because I looked like a whore in them. I got upset and told her it wasn't my looks that were the problem. It was her son's decision, and it was all of the stress from the situation with Karen and my mother that caused it. She said Bill told her that was just one reason and said I wasn't the beautiful, demure woman he married anymore, and didn't want to be with a whore, a fucking whore. I started to cry in disbelief Mill would be so mean to me, after she had been so kind to me all of these years. It blindsided me. The club I work at is not a typical strip club. It is a gentleman's club and caters to the higher elite of my city's society. Our prices are not cheap. The dancers are only allowed to show their breasts during private dances. They have to keep their lingerie on while working the poles. I know that isn't standard, but a lot of the dancers prefer it that way. Private parts have to be covered at all times regardless. There is no touching allowed, and a distance of 6 feet is heavily enforced by our bouncers for private dances due to COVID. Lap dances are no longer allowed due to a SA that happened long before I started working there. I know the story and I can share it another time. The stage is protected by a wide barrier that maintains a comfortable 6 feet distance between the dancers and the spectators. My boss is all about safety and doesn't take shit from anyone, even the customers that think their money is their get-out-jail-free card to treat the dancers and bartenders as they please. He has thrown out several people since I started working there. One man was demanding I show him my tits and to pour liquor on them so he could lick it off. My boss hurled his drunk ass out of the club like a sack of potatoes. Go boss man. He invested millions into the club. He is a good man that provides for his family. His wife is one of our dancers, and she is a certified 10 even after having 3 kids. She and I have become good friends, and she is giving me tips on how to get in better shape. I adore her. I guess I can understand why Mill would have reservations about my job, but it was no excuse for her to treat me that way. I hung up on her and called Bill and asked him to come over. As soon as he walked in, I confronted him about what his mother said. He assured me that it wasn't true, and that he didn't know why Mill said those things. I asked him if he was bitter because of my job, and that I had been bettering myself. He said no, and that he was happy for me. He called his mother and put her on speakerphone, and asked her why she was so cruel to me. Mill got upset. I went to work that night and had a miserable shift. I have horrible butterfingers when I am overly stressed or upset, and I broke several bottles of alcohol that night. My boss gave me crap about it, and I felt so awful inside that I barely managed to hold it together. He called me to his office after my shift and asked what was up. I explained the situation to him and he apologized. I did tell them about my past so he and his wife understand why I get like I do sometimes. Certain things trigger me. I can't help it. He said it was okay and not to worry about it. He gave me the following night off and said to take a day for myself to calm down. I cried myself to sleep when I got home. Bill came over the next day with flowers and took me to lunch. He said he spoke to Phil. Phil told him that the divorce had been hard for Mill too, and she couldn't stand thinking that her son could be the cause of both divorces, and was in complete denial about it. So she pointed the blame at me, using my job as her justification to be so nasty. No way her wonderful son that she raised so well could have strayed so far. Phil did express his disappointment in Bill for taking the easy way out and divorcing me, believing that any couple can overcome their problems with time and healing. But he wasn't going to push the issue. Mill did apologize eventually after talking with Bill. She said she was just frustrated and didn't want to admit or accept that he did anything wrong, and assumed I was just trying to make him jealous of other men because of my job and my self-improvement, and she didn't mean anything she said. I told him I needed some time. She didn't apologize to me directly but through Bill. so I don't know if her apology was genuine, or if it was to appease him. After thinking about it a while, I decided to forgive her, sort of, but things won't be as they were. Only Bill will now be in charge of sending photos and keeping her updated about the kids, and I asked him not to discuss me at all, not even to say I am doing fine. If she calls me, I won't be picking up. This is the first just no behavior out of her that I have experienced. She welcomed me with open arms into the family, embraced my eldest son, and claims him as her grandchild, and was always kind to me, never once judging me for my past until now. I don't know what to think or why she decided to be like this. I know people sometimes deserve second chances, but I would rather not give them the option to prove me wrong. So I'll be going no contact with her for a while. He took me home after that. Bill came over to talk to me last night about Mill, and I said I didn't want to discuss it anymore. I made my decision, and that I would be sticking to it until I felt ready to talk to her. Bill thinks I'm overreacting and being unreasonable. He said I needed to be more understanding that she is a Catholic that believes divorce is a sin. He acknowledges that it is his fault for the divorce though, both of them, but he added that I could have made more of an effort to be emotionally invested in our marriage. He then went on to say my job is a problem for her, and maybe I should consider looking at something else to make her happy. I saw red. I got pissed and told him to pound sand. My job makes me happy, and that is all that matters. I don't care if Mill has a problem with it. I don't care if he does either. It's my life. He chose to leave, not me. I won't be told what to do by anyone. My job provides for me and my kids and keeps a roof over our heads. I reminded him that his alimony and child support, while appreciated, isn't needed, and I can manage alone without his help. Even with 2 fucking kids. I won't apologize for my job. I also won't apologize for bettering myself and finally finding the self-confidence I didn't know I had. And I won't apologize for his fucking mistakes. First the cheating, then deciding his wife's trauma was too much of a stressor on his fragile existence. I won't roll over for anyone ever again. I then said that I'm not his fucking wife anymore, so he and his mother don't get a say in what I do. I then told him to get the fuck out. I won't let people walk all over me anymore, not even Bill. I don't know if I am overreacting, but I don't think I am. This man came into my life and took me and my son into his family. He adopted my eldest as his own and rescued him when he was kidnapped by my psycho fucking mother. We had a child together. I found out he was cheating on me for an entire year with some shameless bitch at his job, and I took him back and married him for the second time after forgiving him. Then his mother brings another psycho into my life, and I am the one having to deal with it. I had my body picked apart and ridiculed. My privacy was violated. I was threatened, and my marriage was tested. But he blames me for the breakdown on our marriage, because I wasn't emotionally invested enough. I did the damn best I could. I worked hard, maintained the house, and took care of our kids. I never asked for anything for myself and always put him and my kids before me. But I am to blame. Yeah, fuck that. I don't owe anyone shit. Update. The truth comes out. Hey Reddit fam. Just want to thank you all for the love and support you all continuously show me, despite how brainless I can be when it comes to the toxic people in my life. I sat down and took the time to really think about everything. I'm realizing now that my marriage was based on my subconscious desire to have someone there to protect me, rather than standing on my own 2 feet. I had grown up living in fear all of my life, and when Bill came into my life, I felt safe. But it wasn't the safety I had wanted. Being divorced and standing on my own and defending myself against Mill and Bill has given me perspective, and I feel more free than I did before. I am able to live my life on my own terms and provide for my kids, and I couldn't be happier with how everything turned out. Sadly, it took a lot of heartbreak, pain, and drama to get here, but I like to think that I am stronger because of it. My ex-in-laws are here in town and wanted to see me to discuss everything. I didn't want to, but Bill pleaded with me, so I went. We met up at the bistro and sat down, the 4 of us. Mill got right into the discussion without giving us a chance to order drinks. She apologized to me directly this time, stating that she didn't mean to hurt me, but was frustrated about my job, and insisted on me finding something else. She doesn't want to tell her friends or the family, that our grandson's mother works at a strip club and says it is tempting sin again. I told her I'm not sleeping with any of the men that come into my job. I then said if it bothers her that much, to not say anything about me. I don't want her saying anything about me at all to strangers anyway. She started crying and praying right there at the table, and I was getting pretty annoyed. I began to realize that this wasn't new behavior. Whenever she would get upset and wanted to shift the blame or ignore what was being told to her, she would start crying and praying for the person who is upsetting her. I was close to losing my shit. She finally calmed down and wiped her tears, then said me and Bill should get back together and get remarried at the courthouse. It would absolve our sins in the eyes of God. She then commanded I quit my job, stop wearing makeup, and the new wardrobe I had gotten for myself. She even suggested I cut my hair. Absolutely not, lady. It took me years to grow my hair to the length it is now. My brother had chopped off a big chunk of my hair on the side of my head. I had to cut my hair in a pixie style just to avoid looking terrible. I have been growing my hair out ever since. Aside from trims every so often, I refused to cut it. I said no and got up to leave, but Bill insisted I stay because he had something to say. Fam, when I tell you this man couldn't look any worse, he manages to surprise me. He tells us that he has been lying to all of us. He admits that he has been seeing someone else behind my back for the last 4 months. While I've been home taking care of the kids and maintaining the house, he has been sleeping with another woman on his so-called office days. He said he wasn't attracted to me anymore because I was letting myself go. He expressed frustration that I only care about my appearance now, instead of when we were married. He then said that he didn't want to be a father to my kids anymore, and wanted to be done with me permanently. He will continue to pay the alimony and child support, but does not want to see near the kids. Ex-Mill and ex-Phil were shocked into silence. I could only sit there and stare at this man. Ex-Mill begins crying, while ex-Phil is trying to comfort her. In just a few short weeks, Bill went from being the wonderful, upstanding gentleman to a cowardly, sinful adulterer child abandoner for her. I actually felt sorry for her. Ex-Phil then asks if he was still seeing the other woman. Bill says yes, and that he didn't mean for it to go this far, but he didn't want to hurt anyone more than he's already done. I don't know why, but I was so angry, I could only laugh. This man lied to me. He divorced me under false pretenses, and has been seeing some other woman since right after my youngest son was born. Now, a lot of the weird things he had done during that time made sense. While my ex-in-laws were going nuts on him, I just sat there. The manager had to come out and tell us all to be quiet. Bill looked at me and begged me for my forgiveness, and said he was sorry, but he just couldn't handle life attached to me anymore, even if that meant giving up his rights to the kids. I ordered a cocktail from the manager, who was still standing there, looking confused. I was smiling the entire time. When the waitress brought the cocktail, she handed it directly to me. I said thank you, then threw the cocktail in Bill's face. I stood up and walked out. Bill sent me a text that he'll be sending my kids' belongings to me and blocked me on everything. Ex-Mill sent me a text and said she would not be bothering me anymore. She was heartbroken over what her son has done, and she and ex-Phil will be cutting him out of their lives as well. I didn't respond. I feel bad for her and ex-Phil, but my only thoughts are with my kids right now. My eldest will have to be spoken to, and I don't know how to even go about having that conversation. I decided to keep him out of school tomorrow, so I can take him to my therapy session, so we can do it there. I picked my kids up from the sitters, then took them home. Brandon knows something is up, but I am not ready to talk about it with him yet. My mind is all over the place. I am crushed to have to tell him he is losing another dad. I don't want to lie to him, but I don't want to break his heart. Bill is such a fucking asshole for this. This isn't fair to my kids at all. I hate him for this. I fucking hate him with everything in my soul. All for some other woman. I called my boss and told him I needed to take a couple of days off to figure things out, and explained the situation. He understood and told me to take the time I needed. A friend of mine will have the kids at her place when I work. She has kids of her own, one of them being in my son's class. Yes, I am paying her. Just to clarify, no, I am not angry at Bill for cheating on me again. I always knew in the back of my mind that he would. I wanted to trust him. But he showed me that he hasn't changed. I'm actually fine with it. What I am not okay with is him abandoning the kids. He's not the man I loved. He's someone else entirely and put on an act for years. I don't know what to do about my ex-in-laws. It's not their fault. Bill lied to them too. And they were acting based on what he was telling them. I did text them that they could come over tomorrow to see the kids after therapy, and we can talk. They said they would, so we'll see how that goes. I won't deprive them of the chance to be grandparents to my boys just because their son is an asshole. I will now be going for official child support and full custody of my kids to protect them. That is it, fam. I don't know if I'll have an update after this. I'll still post stories about my mother occasionally, but for now, I'm gonna have a tall glass of wine and watch the latest HOTD episode before going to sleep. Update. Ex-Mill wants to take my baby to Greece for a year. Happy ending. Ugh. Just ugh, fam. Ugh, I was not expecting to update as I hoped today would be a fresh start for me and my kids. Unfortunately, this day couldn't be over fast enough. My ex-Mill has truly lost her mind. She wants to take my baby with her and ex-Phil to fucking Greece for a year without me. I took my kids to my therapy session today, and we broke the news to my eldest son, Brandon. He was understandably upset, but he understood. I was honest to a point. I told him Bill had decided not to be a part of our lives anymore, and that it would just be me, him and his baby brother from now on. It is the truth, but I left out the cheating part. Brandon knows about the first time Bill cheated on me, and that hurt him pretty badly. I'll tell him the truth when he is older. We discussed my ex-in-laws as well. And my therapist said that based on what she understands of the situation, seeing them might be counterproductive, but ultimately left the choice up to me. Brandon decided he didn't want to see them, and in truth, neither did I. But I did decide to meet with them with my youngest. I dropped Brandon off at my friend's house and went to meet with my ex-in-laws at the bistro, as I wasn't comfortable with them knowing where I live. They fawned over the baby, who was all smiles and giggles. I ordered food and just sat quietly to eat while they spent the time with him. Ex-Mill cried that my son was the spitting image of his father, and I shifted uncomfortably, but forced a smile and nodded my head. Not once did they ask about Brandon. I told them that I didn't mind them being in my kids' lives, but there would have to be boundaries set in place. I laid out my terms, which were very reasonable. They can do Zoom calls and we can visit for Christmas, provided I have the money to make the trip. I will not be told how to dress or how to live my life by them or anyone else. My lifestyle and my job are my business, and they will not interfere anymore. I also do not accept religion in my life, and I do not want my children being indoctrinated. If at any point my children decide they want to accept religion, it is their decision, and no one will make it for them. I will also not be told what to do with my kids, as they are mine, and I am their mother. That is it. My terms are non-negotiable. They did not like this, and they both began to argue. I told them I won't accept anything other than them agreeing to my terms, and if not, they will never see us again. I will initiate no contact permanently. Ex-Phil agreed, but ex-Mill began to cry and pray. I told her to stop because that crap doesn't work on me anymore. I will not be manipulated into submitting to her will. I am not her dancing monkey to order around to dance at her command. She went stone silent, and after some prodding from ex-Phil she nodded, then looked at my son who had fallen asleep in her arms. She then smiled like she was up to something. She got to talking about how great it would be if they took my son to Greece with them on their trip. The family would love him, and he would fit in perfectly there. No one would know he is half white. His hair is so dark, just like Bill's. He would love it there. My sisters will adore him. I went as still as a rock, and the smile on ex-Mill's face told me all I needed to know. She looked at me and said, "We're going to Greece for a year to be with family there. My sisters haven't seen us for a long time, and I want to introduce baby to them. You shouldn't mind. It is our home country after all. He should be introduced to our culture. We'll bring him back. A year isn't that long." She was talking about it like she was trying to sell me a vacation. It may be their home country, but it isn't mine. My jaw hit the floor. The fucking audacity. I'm paraphrasing here, but I said absolutely not. Not only is it inappropriate to even suggest taking my son away from me, his mother, for a whole fucking year overseas, It is severing the bond that I have with him. He won't know who I am in a year. I would be a complete stranger to him. You also want to take him away from his older brother who loves him to death. You are crazy if you think I would ever entertain such a crazy idea. X-Mill went total cat butt-faced and glared at me. X-Phil sighed and looked at his wife. You can't expect her to agree to something like that. Would you agree to it if it were your son? X-Mill snapped and said she did lose her son. And I said, so your solution is to steal mine. She then went quiet for a while and looked like she had a moment of clarity. She then looked at my son again, and I saw actual tears, which surprised me. She then said that she was so heartbroken over Bill, that losing him was like losing a piece of herself, and my son is all she has left of him. She apologized and promised she would honor my wishes. She said she loves us, but has a hard time letting go. Bill has shattered her spirit, and she thought my son could be how she heals from the heartbreak. I told her that she has every reason to be upset with Bill, and that none of this is her fault. But she needs help because religion is not the fix for every problem. It's only giving her temporary relief as she keeps her head buried in the sand to avoid facing her problems. Sometimes you have to stop using it as a crutch and dealing with your issues head on. I told her I can't go back to living on someone else's terms. I am still in therapy dealing with the trauma of my past, and it isn't fair to impose her will on me, even if she believes it is for my own good. She did ask if the trauma of my past is what led to me being a stripper. I told her I wasn't currently a stripper. I am a bartender, but I will be switching to dancing once I am at a weight I feel comfortable with. Dancers make way more money than bartenders do. As her son has decided to fuck off and leave me with 2 kids to take care of alone, I'll do whatever it takes to provide for them. I then told her my past trauma is my own burden to bear, and I will not let it ruin me as it has others. It is why I am in therapy. My therapist knows about my desire to become a dancer, and has not discouraged me from pursuing it. I told her that any extra money I make is going into my kids' college funds, so they won't have to struggle as I did. She actually appreciated that and said she would back off even if she doesn't agree with it. I told her that was fine, and I understood her concerns. We then talked about Bill. They admitted that they likely won't cut him off permanently, but they are apprehensive and decided they needed time, and told him not to call them for a while. Even though it breaks their hearts to do it, he wasn't happy. But ultimately, he said he would honor their wishes. They lamented over where they went wrong with him. I told them it wasn't their fault. Bill is a grown-ass man who makes his own decisions. He decided to throw his life away, and all he has now is that woman who will likely leave him if word gets out about what he's done. Considering my one friend is such a blabbermouth, I don't think it will take very long. We talked about Grace and X-Mill's sisters. They will be gone for a year as one of X-Mill's sisters has cancer and doesn't have long left, and all of this drama with Bill has left them feeling emotionally drained. I think the time away from the US will do them some good, especially X-Mill. We agreed on weekly Zoom calls, exchanged hugs, then I returned home with both of my sons after picking Brandon up. All in all, despite X-Mill's temporary insanity, I'm happy with how the meeting went. Finally I can breathe. Peace at fucking last.